Yo, 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 what up? Grateful for another maggot-free day above the dirt. Today's Buddhist quick tip is entitled The Ignorance of Ignoring. So what does this mean? We hear a lot about ignorance in practice, excuse me, and in fact, it's the root of our struggle. It's the root of our discomfort. It's the root of our suffering. Ignorance. Now, the ignorance that the teachings are really talking about in that context is an ignorance of not knowing. In other words, we haven't had the experience, we haven't had the information, we haven't been given the knowledge, we haven't created insight from knowledge and experience. We don't have the information. So while practice is learning to know, practice is the desire to know, to bring ourselves out of ignorance. There's another side of ignorance that is, an irresponsible, willful choice of ignorance. The ignorance practice is talking about is not for us to take responsibility or accountability for being ignorant. It's recognizing why we're ignorant, which is we haven't learned what we need to not be ignorant, but we want to not be ignorant. So the ignorance I'm talking about, the ignoring ignorance I'm talking about, is once we know, once we've had experience, had insight, had knowledge, have the information, we actually choose to ignore all of it. So it's a state of we now know. In fact, we now know better, but we're willfully choosing to ignore it. And why do we do that? Because it's an aversionary tactic to avoid engaging what we need to engage and to avoid taking the actions we need to take. So why does this happen? Often it's because even though we might say we want to be out of a certain experience or situation that we're struggling with, because sometimes it's comfortable and safe and familiar to be in self-pity or in that pain, that we don't want to take the risks we need to do to get out of the situation. We choose to willfully ignore what we know, knowing better, knowing what we should do, as a way to somehow avoid, and in that warped sense of thinking, we think we're protecting ourselves, but we're actually really doing more harm. So I hope this was helpful. Please don't ignore it. And